My name is Mark Wheatcroft. I'm a historian that creates regular content exploring over 1,000 years of English history. My videos also cover the history of other countries that connect with England. Subscribe to my channel to keep up to date with all the latest releases. Hello and welcome to another in a set of series on my Walking the Battlefields tour series, filmed here at the battlefield of Quatre Bras in Belgium. So we're at the battlefield of Quatre Bras. This is one of the early battles of the Waterloo campaign of 1815. But before we get into the battle itself, let's have a quick little look and discussion about where exactly we are at this point in time. So in 1814, Napoleon is forced to surrender and abdicate his position as Emperor of France. He's sent into exile on the Isle of Elba in the Mediterranean, a small island just off the coast of Italy near Naples, where he remains until the spring of 1815. At this point he escapes and comes back to France, makes his way through France from the southern coast up to Paris, reclaiming the throne and rebuilding an army as he goes. During this time, the victorious Allies from 1814 were in Vienna working on the peace conference that would end what they believed was the Napoleonic Wars. However, there'd be one last act to play out. As the news of Napoleon's return reaches the conference, and I believe it was the Emperor of the Austrians turned around to General Wellington and said, "You must save Europe again." And he is dispatched to form an Allied army to face Napoleon. Now, for Napoleon, time is of the essence. This European coalition that's arranged against him is aiming to bring armies of various nationalities against him that were just overwhelming him in numbers, similar to what happens at the Battle of Leipzig in 1814. That's one of the key moments that leads to his defeat at that stage of the conflict. And so in the early summer, June of 1815, he makes preparations to invade the former French territory that has recently been given to the Kingdom of the Netherlands, that we today now know as Belgium. Within this country, within Belgium, there's two forces arrayed already against Napoleon. To the west of a line along from Brussels is the British force under Wellington, and under his command is also the Dutch forces under the Prince of Orange. To the west is a Prussian force commanded by Gerhard von Blucher, and they're in communication as to what's going to happen. Now, things start to kick off on the 17th of June. On the 15th of June 1814, just down this road here. So this road here is the Brussels to Charleroi road. Brussels approximately 20 miles to the north, Charleroi to the south. And Charleroi is close to the French border. So on the 15th of June, Napoleon crosses the border close to Charleroi, and his troops have a minor skirmish against the Dutch forces, Royal Netherlands Army forces that are down in that area on the border. Meanwhile, on this evening in Brussels, Wellington is attending a ball held by the Duchess of Richmond, with most of the British Army being of noble birth, officers class being of noble birth. There's a large aristocratic presence in Brussels at this time, and they're attending a ball. News reaches Wellington of Napoleon's advance against him, where he as the immortal line, "Hamburg by God." With that, he sets his forces on the march along the Charleroi to Brussels road, ready to encounter the French. Now, out to the east of us, over in that direction, the Prussians are in a position near the small village of Ligny, and Napoleon is spending the evening down near Charleroi. So on the morning of the 16th, the campaign will really begin in earnest. Napoleon splits his army in two. His army, under his command, will move against the main Prussian body at Ligny across there. I think approximately 5 miles away, maybe a bit more, in that direction. Whilst a smaller section of his army, under his second in command, Marshall Ney, will advance along this road that we are marching towards walking up now, to encounter the British force. Now Ney, we will be visiting Ligny later on, so I'll come back. I will mention it vaguely as we talk about this battle, because the two are happening side by side. But for the most part, we're going to concentrate on what's happening here, and then do a separate talk when we get over to Ligny later on this afternoon. Now, Ney's orders when advancing up this road is to find the British, engage them, but only to hold them, and if necessary, as a holding engagement, to prevent them from coming from the Prussians' aid. During the day of the 2 days battle, Wellington and Blucher will actually meet at a windmill halfway between the two forces, and Wellington promises Blucher that they both promise each other they will come to each other's mutual assistance, however, if not attack themselves. And so that's why Ney's movement up this road to where the British forces will meet them is so important. What also is very important is at the top of this road, when we get up there, is that this road here is at the top of the road, not the very top, but up here at the town, the place known as Quatre Bras, is a crossroads. The name Quatre Bras itself meaning 4 arms. And that crossroads will link to move the road that crosses the Charleroi Brussels road here, goes down towards that battlefield at Ligny. So whoever controls this part of the battlefield, controls that crossroad, will be able to move towards that battlefield. Now, Napoleon's hope was that Ney would come up, seize the crossroads, push the British back, and then be able to traverse that crossroads, moving down, and to then hit and deliver the devastating blow into the Prussian flank. However, as we'll see when we get up here, things didn't work out as Napoleon had planned. So we're looking at here, fortified farm position, is known as Gomercourt Farm, and this is where Marshall Ney will create his headquarters during the Battle of Quatre Bras. With the crossroads being up there, you can just see the white buildings that marks the line of where the crossroads actually is. So this is where Ney makes his headquarters position, and the battle itself is going to take place in the fields directly opposite us here for control of those crossroads. So like I say, the Anglo-Allied forces were put in motion in the early hours of the morning of the 16th of June to come down here, or overnight at least. There's a false march 20 miles or so from Brussels, and the leading elements that are going to get down here first is going to be the Royal Netherlands Army under the command of the Prince of Orange. Within that will be a single British division of General Picton's, his 5th Division, and also the troops of the Duke of Brunswick. So, like I say, the fields are going to be arrayed across here with battle for control of the crossroads which runs along the crest of the ridge in front. So that gives you a rough idea of where we are. The farmhouse is private property, but I'm just going to go and have a little nose down a little bit closer to see what I can see around it, and then I'll catch you back up a little bit further up the road to tell you more of the story. Farm along the Charleroi Brussels road, and we're now at the Brunswick Memorial. So yeah, it's closed, we can't get in there at the moment. So we're just going to come over to the fence now just to discuss the the positions that we're at. So we're roughly in line now with the British positions. You can see the vehicles moving along the road, running off towards Leeney in the distance there, and the farmhouse complex just behind. So this is the area in which the main battle actually takes place. Now the fields looking this way are fairly similar as they were as open pasture land, farmland at the time. However, the field over this side was a large, dense, thick forest. So you've got a little bit of tree line here, but there's houses and things being built inside. This area isn't one of the preserved battlefields of Belgium. Now, unfortunately, in recent times there has been a lot of reconstruction taking place on the battlefield itself. But this was all tree line, all forest going all the way up to the road itself. Now, the Brunswick memorial to the Duke of Brunswick that stands here is because on the day of the battle, the 16th of June, the Brunswick forces, though in their distinctive black uniforms with a skull and crossbone insignia that will later be usurped by SS units, will be fighting in the woods over on this side of the battlefield, and the Duke of Brunswick is killed in those woods off to this side of the battlefield. Where exactly we don't know for certain, but they're fighting there in the aims to prevent the crossroads falling into the hands of the French. So this is the memorial here on the Charleroi Brussels Road to the Duke of Brunswick, Frederick Wilhelm. Themselves, you can see from the sign opposite, it's 33 kilometres to Brussels and 17 to the village of Waterloo. So probably about 12 to the actual battlefield, and then you've got the road leading off towards Nivelles that way and towards Numar in this direction. So you can see it's quite a strategic position here, and as I say, with the battle raging down that way at Ligny, whoever holds this crossroads is able to offer mutual support to whichever army they are fighting for. So if it's Wellington, he could move down towards support the Prussians, and if it's Ney, he can move down to support Napoleon. In fact, there's one element of the French army, the Erlon's First Corps, that actually spends the entire day marching backwards and forwards between the two armies, because the two commanders were arguing between themselves as to who they should support. And in fact, that one corps being involved in either of the battles, it may have proved significant. So there is some more memorials up in that direction that we'll go and visit later on. But for now, I'm going to head down this way, and we're going to discuss a specific British action that takes place in amongst Picton's division. So as I said earlier, the armies were on the march from the early morning, so when they're coming down here and getting into position, they're being fed in a piecemeal manner rather than en masse. So as each unit arrives, they're slotted into wherever they need to go. Now, Picton's 5th Division is one of Wellington's finest divisions, hardest fighting peninsular divisions, Picton being one of his most highly regarded peninsular commanders as well. Wellington puts him under the command of the Prince of Orange. Now, the reason why he's placing him under the command of the Prince of Orange in amongst that Royal Dutch Army is due to then Wellington isn't 100% sure of the reliability of these soldiers, so he's bolstering it up with one of his more senior divisions. So they're one of the first divisions to actually come down and arrive on the battlefield that day, and they get down here and they get thrown into action fairly early on. So we're just going to come up onto the bank here just to see, hopefully get a nice view over the battlefields themselves. Okay, so it's a little bit spoilt because of the hedgerow, but you can get a good glimpse of it. Now this is the area that there was old farm buildings recently pulled down. They weren't farm buildings during the battle, but it used to give the crossroads some element of historical look. So as you can see, running along down the side of the road here is large conifer bushes, so you can't really see much beyond it. So this is about as good a position as we're going to get to view this side of the battlefield. Now over in that division, you're going to get Pitson's division moving in. Now what happens is that, as you can kind of see a little bit, this area, this battlefield is very rolling. There's a lot of dead ground in it, and what happens is that within that dead ground there's a group of French cavalry. A lot of people often put them down as cuirassiers. They're not cuirassiers, they're further over there, they're actually lancers. And what Pitson's division moves in, and it's Kemp Brigade that's first hit by these lancers, and they get scattered, and then they move on to Pack's Brigade. Now Pack's Brigade consists of the 42nd, the Back Watch, I think it's the Cameron Highlanders, and the 44th East Essex, who's the regiment that I do my reenacting with. And we get rolled up by that cavalry, so I think we're the third in line, second in line if I remember correctly. Pretty certain it's the Camerons get bumped quite hard by the cavalry and get scattered. The 44th don't have time to form square, so what their officer in command orders them to do is rear rank right about face. And so rather than being in a square, they're in just one long line with each facing outwards. As the cavalry move in, the front rank give fire, they sweep round the back, the rear rank give fire, and then as they move off, on the left of the line, the light company commander holds his company's fire with that first initial 2 volleys, and as they move off, both of them fire. Now in the middle of that scramble, the colours, the regimental colour, so not the King's colour, the full Union flag, the regimental, so it's yellow with the Union flag in the top quadrant, is almost seized by one of the lancers, and Ensign Christie, who's holding the colour, actually takes a lance into the face. He manages to hold on, but the French rip part of it, a segment of it off, and they ride off into the distance with this segment of the colour, and that actual part of that regimental colour is in the regimental chapel at Warley in Essex, just outside Brentwood. But that's the fields that it happened in over there, and you can, like I say, from this position you can see that rolling nature and how there's dead ground there. So from this position you can see, you get a visual that it looks as if it's just a flat hill, but there's little dips in it in which troops can hide. But that all happens in that field over there. Now along the road towards Nimor and towards Ligny, along to the edge of that conifer line that we were looking at a moment ago, we're looking across the field, across this direction. It just gives you another outline of that rolling nature of the ground. You can see the Brunswick Memorial in front of us, just in front of that little small crop of trees, and the farmhouse, Ney's headquarters, at the far side. So you can see just how actually compact this battlefield was. So when we look at the battlefield at Waterloo later on in the series, that's a compact battlefield in itself, but this is a very, very compact battlefield. It's very, very close quarter in the fighting. So just to give you a view of that, obviously farm field, you can't really get into them, and there's being overshadowed by the more famous battle that happens 2 days later just up the road a ways. Very little actually here to see, but it's still good to come down and have a look at, and you can see, you certainly get, again, like I always say when visiting the battlefield, you get a little more appreciation of a battlefield and how things occur when you come and stand on the ground, because you can see the lie of the land, you can see these dips, this undulation, areas of dead ground, why these things are important, and it makes you realise how things actually happen. Because I think sometimes, especially from a reenactor point of view, we're so used to fighting on almost like a cricket pitch level surface that you sometimes lose track of actually how important landscape and landscapal features are within a battlefield. But hopefully from this view you can get a good glimpse of that. Okay, so we're just going to move across the other side of the crossroads, another couple of monuments. I'll show you those and then we'll be wrapping up here at Quatre Bras. Crossroads and along the road as if heading to Nivelles, and we're here now at the Cavalry, the Royal Netherlands Army Cavalry Memorial, and that's one of the memorials here, one of the few memorials here at Quatre Bras. No more, this battlefield is very, very sparse in terms of memorials. It's this one, there's the one across the road, and then there's the Brunswick one that we saw a moment ago. But the Dutch army is often heavily maligned during the campaign, but actually in a lot of cases it does good work. So for example, it was the Dutch cavalry that were up here. They got up here first and they secured the crossroads prior to the arrival of the infantry, which enabled them to hold it in the first place. If they hadn't have been here and fought so valiantly in those early hours of the battle until more reinforcements arrived, then the French would have secured the crossroads. Holding force would have been placed ahead of us on the road to Brussels, and the rest of the Ney's force would have then been able to fall upon the Prussians down the ways at Ligny. So that's the memorial here to those cavalrymen who were able to seize and hold these crossroads against far superior numbers in the early stages of the battle. So we're now just going to cross the road and have a look at the British Memorial, and then we'll just discuss the result of the battle. British Memorial here, and it lists all the regiments that fought here during the Battle of Quatre Bras. You've got the 1st Division under George Cook, Major General George Cook, 3rd Division under Lieutenant General Baron Charles von Alten, Hanoverian Brigade under Kesselmenge, Picton's Brigade, as we've already discussed, with Kempton and Pack divisions, and then it's I said it was the Camerons, it was the Golden Highlanders that were with the other regiment of the 3 regiments that got rolled up by the cavalry. And also on there it's got on the right hand side of the list it tells you what the current regiments are as well, for the regimental histories, and the left being what the regiment was at the time of the battle. So whilst we're here at the British Memorial, we'll take a sit down and just discuss what was the result of the battle. So as we've already discussed, the French, their aim was to capture this strategic crossroads and then be able to move down against the Prussians. For the Allies, their aim was simple, was to hold the French under Ney off, prevent him from linking up with the Prussians, and that was their battle tactics. So at the end of the day, fighting, the crossroads are still in the Allies' hands. Ney is unable to wrestle them from the British and Allied hands. He's unable thusly to move down the road towards Ligny and come to Napoleon's assistance. And as we discussed, the Erlon's Corps, 1st Corps, spent the day marching forwards and backwards between the two battles and not affecting either. Now at the end of the day's battle, the Allies retreat from these crossroads here back towards Brussels. Now there's 2 reasons for that. So first of all, over to the east at Ligny, Napoleon has inflicted a fairly substantial defeat upon the Prussians. Don't want to say too much because I'm going to go over to Ligny after I finish filming this video and do some videos over there. But they've had a reasonable sized victory over there, and the Prussians are in retreat. Now with the Prussians in retreat, actually what's occurred is the exact opposite of what Napoleon's plan was that he has seized his side of the crossroad and could come down and hit the Allied army that's down here at Quatre Bras in the flank from the road up from Ligny. So it's not a suitable tactical position for the Allies to stay in. The other reason is that approximately 10 miles in that direction along the Brussels-Charleroi road is a position that Wellington has seen a year earlier, and when he saw it, commented this will be an excellent location for a battle. And that is where he is taking his men. He's withdrawing them back to a more strategic position, and that strategic position is the ridge that become near a farmhouse called Mont Saint-Jean, just outside of a small hamlet on the edge of Brussels called Waterloo, and that is where he's going to fight Napoleon. From just before we've made it to the crossroads, down into that area, that wooded area in which the Duke of Brunswick is killed in the woodlands, and so the trees that you can see in the houses in the tree line there is directly opposite that memorial to the Duke of Brunswick. But after that, all of this side of the battlefield was covered in a forest, and so the Brunswickers were in there skirmishing. The Duke was on his horse in the forest, and that's when he gets hit by a musket ball from a French skirmisher up against his men. But again, you can see from this position just this relentless, this rolling nature of the ground, and so how there's dead ground within it. And imagine being in a forested environment within this rolling ground would have made fighting in it particularly tricky at that time, especially with the nature of the fighting in the early 19th century. Back to the Duke of Brunswick Memorial, heading back towards the farmhouse that you can just see sticking up out of the hollow there. And that concludes our walk around the battlefield here at Quatre Bras. So I hope you enjoyed the show, the video. If you want to find out more about the Battle of Quatre Bras, obviously have a look back, like I said, at that previous video I put out last year. It's more of like a PowerPoint video, rather than showing you the location itself. So take a look on there. If you like what you see, click the like button, hit the share button. Most of all, hit that subscribe button. That way you'll be kept up to date with all the other videos that I put out going forward. If you like the battlefield ones in particular, I've got a number of First World War battlefield location videos already up on both the Somme and Ypres. And also stay tuned, because there are going to be more from the 100 Days Waterloo campaign coming soon. So hope you enjoy it, and see you all soon. Goodbye.